Hello all, I hope you are doing well in these extraordinary times. I committed a few arenas ago to saying unprecedented, so I hope you're doing well in these unprecedented times. It's a word that's not used enough. I would like to welcome you all to the Fintech Finance Virtual Arena where we're hosting today. In this special arena, we're going to be having a look at Freetrade, and this is an app that I'm a big fan of. I'm going to try not to bombard Adam with questions of, can we have this bit, can we have this bit? So speaking of which, joining me today, I have Adam Dodds, who is the founder and CEO. How are you doing today, Adam?
Hey, Elliot, I'm doing great, thanks. Good to be on.
I love the Star Trek background. That is very apt.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people never watched TNG. It's the best version, right?
I know enough about Star Trek to know that is a bit of a kind of gaunt. I like Abrams. I know it's the movie. Yeah, loved it. I know it's a little bit controversial, but love that. Let's get right down into it. First of all, let's go to the before times. What was the retail trading market like before you started? Where did you realize, here is a problem in the industry that needs to be addressed?
Well, I'm not from the UK. I'm from Canada. So when I moved here 6 years ago, I guess that was the moment I needed to open up an investment account and realize how underwhelming all the options that were available to me were, and how painful it really was to open up a new investment account. So yeah, that was it.
Simple as, I tried to open an account. This is an absolute barrage of obstacles.
Yeah, well, there was a oligopoly that still somewhat exists here in the UK. A handful of stockbrokers that all settled into a nice, comfortable £12 commission structure, every single one of them. So it was painfully obvious that someone needed to come in and smash that up. So there it was. The opportunity was there.
So when did you realize, do you know what, someone can smash this up, that's someone, it can be me. I'm going to do it by this. I've got, the market is there. I think this is how I'm going to get customers. This is how I'm going to build the tech. What was the aha moment? Let's do this. Was there kind of like a free trade legend of how everything came together?
Not really. I think more where I was working at the time, I was an accountant previously, and then I was working in corporate finance M&A, and just seeing, the different companies that got funded with much, I guess, shakier business models. I'm thinking, I could do this too. Really getting sick and tired of my day job at that time. So it's just let's go and do this.
I think it was around the time when I want to say Peter Thiel, but it may have been somebody else that you said, I can be fooled by anyone that looks like Zuckerberg.
But do you think I don't really know if I have the look, but yeah.
Right. So looking, and this is one of the things I find kind of interesting about you guys. You had your Series A round last year. And you've just finished your crowdfunding round on Crowdcube, which was brilliant. So thank you very much for putting that out there. With that in mind, why did you choose to go the crowdfunding route? I think you raised 7 million.
Well, I think we've raised something like 20 million through crowdfunding, actually. So we've funded the business through crowdfunding. So it's kind of the opposite of everyone else. Not everyone else, I should say, but like a typical venture-backed company, startup, fast-growing company. Usually, they're venture-backed, and then they top it up with maybe a little bit of crowdfunding for the marketing benefits or whatever. We are the exact opposite. We started in 2016 with a tiny crowdfund, £170,000, taking advantage of SEIS government tax break or whatever, and then we followed that up about 8 months later with £1 million raise, a year later 3 million. So we just kind of got our funding through our customers, our future customers, and then it was last year that we reached kind of the end of that road where we've kind of reached the limit that we could do in a given year, which is about 7 million. And that's when we went and looked for, the ideal VC partner for us. And I think we found it in Draper Esprit, the listed VC. So we're, that's kind of the fundraising story for us. And then we did it again this year. We plan to do it again until maybe IPO every year.
I've been endlessly fascinated, especially recently, with the relationship between startups, particularly in the fintech space, and their relation with VCs, because it does, on one hand, I get it, it makes full sense, especially when you compare it to some of the big techs, but equally it does seem that there's more of chasing fundraising as opposed to chasing revenue. So how is this kind of, by having such a crowdfunding focus, and again it's very much almost customer ownership, how has this changed your relationship with VC firms compared to, us crowdfunders?
Well, I mean, it meant that we didn't need to chase VC dollars for most of our life as a company. Does it change the relationship when you do talk to them? A bit, it does. I think that there used to be a bit of a stigma attached to crowdfunding or crowdfunded business. I don't think that exists very much in the UK anymore. I think, Crowdcube and Seedrs has kind of normalized this, and it seems more and more, almost established companies are going that route. I don't think that's the same in the States. So, stateside, crowdfunding still has a bit of a dirty name. People associate that with, like a GoFundMe, or maybe recently seeing in the paper, Steve Bannon, it's like fraud of crowdfunding to build a wall or whatever, that kind of stuff. They don't really associate crowdfunding with equity investment in exciting startups. I think that's changing a little bit now. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's doing a raise right now in the States. And I think that would be a great thing to see. More businesses getting funded by their customers that are super excited, because I think that's a great indicator that you've got something if your future customers are willing to put their hard-earned dollars down to make it happen because they believe in it, right?
That kind of approach to ownership is not dissimilar to the cooperative in the UK, or I'm a very big fan of the way that John Lewis operates in terms of their kind of sort of partnership model. It's a different approach to stakeholders, which means you're not just trying to get the highest IPO possible to satisfy the VC masters.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, we're kind of almost a public company in a way, that the majority of our shareholding is actually held by individual crowdfunding investors that don't have a significant stake, less than 1%, less than even a rounding error on 1%. But you add it all up, it is significant, and that's kind of what we think about when maybe another business is thinking about 2 VC guys on their board or something. We're thinking about our customer base. I think it's 10,000 or so individual shareholders. So, and then of course they're thinking about us as well, and they want to promote the business to everyone they know. And it's a bit of a virtuous circle in that way.
Well, with that in mind, we've got to talk about the free share element. I mean, whoever came up with that, give them a raise, because I love that element. It's almost the amount of times it becomes quite, I've got a free trade, who do I give it to? And you almost have to call them and almost pitch them yourself and say, I'm sending you a free trade, but make sure that you sign up, because that way we both get a free share. What's been the reaction to that, and what's been the sort of the thought process behind that?
Well, yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea, and I can't take credit for it. It would be my co-founder, Victor, who's our kind of marketing efforts, our growth. And I think incentivized referrals as a thing is pretty common out in the world, and it's turned into our biggest engine for growth. But where it's a bit different is that instead of giving cash, we give a share that you don't know what it's going to be. It could be Tesla. And yeah, I think there's been quite a bit of criticism of our space, even of gamifying investing or whatnot, and we don't really do that, but we do gamify the free share stuff, and that's a bit of fun, right? So you don't know what you're going to get, and you have to not quite spin the wheel, but it's mystery reveal time, and yeah, it's a bit of fun. And then you own a share, and it gets you investing right away. All of a sudden, we're minting brand new shareholders that have never owned shares in their life, and they can feel a bit of excitement, feel proud to be a shareholder, and hopefully follow that up with some more investing behavior.
Well, often with companies you've never heard of, like I had, all companies go, oh my god, I didn't realize they were on there. I had one of Codemasters. I was so excited for that. Yeah,
it's amazing. You go down the list of the FTSE 350, the list of largest companies in the UK, and yeah, you recognize a lot of them, right? You got I have no idea that the pub around the corner from me is actually listed on the stock exchange, the group company, right? But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, one of the things that I absolutely love about it is fractional ownership. The fact that I can literally buy £2 of Amazon stock is insane. Why is this, first of all, not been done before, and what are some of your customers' reaction been to this?
I don't know really why it wasn't done before here in the UK. Fractional share ownership as kind of a thing has been around for a really long time. You just need to think of DRIPs, like dividend reinvestment plans. How do you put £1.50 into reinvest that? Well, it's fractional ownership. But then turning that into a normalized product in the stockbroking space. I think it's just a bit of lethargy in the industry that obviously percolates throughout. That they just one full share. That's just the way it's been done for 100 years or whatever since they had it's the same thing with tickers, right? Instead of using the name of the company or the logo as you would now. Using some arcane system of letters to represent the companies from back when they had ticker tapes or something, right? So so we just challenge any of these kind of preconceived notions of how or a stockbroker should operate or should have their product. And fractional shares is a pretty obvious one, right? Why would you need to have this arbitrary amount of money to buy a share of a company? All it is fractional ownership of the company anyways.
Equally, got a product request, and it's more for my OCD. You've got to be able to buy shares and choose the amount, particularly for non-UK stocks, because I find myself buying, 1.2 whatever shares, and then selling the difference to bring it back down to a nice neat one share. But that's more my OCD.
I've heard that before. You're not the only one. I don't get it though, to be honest, because it's do you when you go to the grocery store, do you make sure that your bill is perfectly rounded pounds? It can't be £1.20. It has to be £1 or £2 or £3. Is that the way you think? I don't know. I'm not to make fun of you, but it's weird.
Oh yeah, no, I fully get it. I mean, it makes more sense to I'm going to put £100 on in this one here. It just looks nice on the app.
Yeah. We'll take that. We're taking that on board. We're probably you'll have some options around that in the future.
Well, one of the things that the fact that you're taking that on board, the community is insane. There's kind of official communities in all the various chats and the level of transparency. But then there's a lot of almost unofficial ones that have cropped up. I'm part of about 3 different Freetrade chats on WhatsApp that I've just been invited to. There's a lot of things like that, which is got to give a shout out to Tom on our team, who has always the most interesting and often devastating stock advice. So thank you very much for Tom's bizarre choices.
Well, where that community came from? It was the crowdfunders, right? So back in, like I was saying, in 2016, we did that first little round. I think about 200 people or so invested, and that was the start of our community. Victor, as I mentioned to you, he started up the community board before we even had a product, and that's where it came from. That's why people are so, I guess, engaged as well, because they really care about the company and what we're doing.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is there's a fair few various apps out there on the market. Personally, I've had to play with some of them. One of them I went on and I could not have lost the money faster because I didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't understand what leverage was. I was just really having a play around with it. Whereas at school we taught quadratic equations, but not what the stock market actually is. Free trade, by the element that you're actually owning the share, it seems it's very relaxing. And the fact that you're buying shares as opposed to leverage, what's been some of the thought process behind this, and also what's been some of your customers' reactions?
Well, on the education side of things, which you were mentioning, I know that in school, a lot of people have mentioned this to me. I think things are done even worse over here in terms of financial education, and there's super basic concepts around investing. Your rate of return, the risk that you're taking for that, a benchmark to compare your return against, and we're building that kind of stuff into the product itself. And then how do you educate your users on these features, on these basic concepts? And to date, we've largely relied upon our community to kind of plant a seed maybe, but then they elaborate on it. And as you mentioned, some people can get quite passionate and just want to share their knowledge. And then how do you scale that? And that's what we're working on right now, and how we bring that into the product, and how we kind of amplify certain voices and put out educational resources for people to kind of self-serve and level up their understanding on investing. And then to kind of go back to your other point there on kind of the ease of use, I think that there's something of a line there where previously it was very difficult to kind of get going to buy your first share, let's say, onboarding processes, forms, that kind of thing. We make it dead simple to get started, as simple as signing up for any other service you would download from the App Store as an app. But where does that stop? Well, we don't then try and incentivize people into products or mis-sell products such as leveraged derivatives that you mentioned, because we know that those are not good for our customers. And we're building a product that's good for our customers, that is focused on their investment returns. And we're hoping to have a relationship with our customers that's going to last many, many years. And doing naughty things to them right off the bat, like getting them into a leveraged trade, is not something that we're going to do.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Just on the education front, it was also elements that I had never heard of popped up. For example, a stock split. I had a notification saying, "Hey, you got a bit of Apple stock. Just to let you know, this is what's going to happen on this date." I'd heard the stock split, but I didn't know the intricacies of it, of what date you hold when it splits. It was very nice and succinct to understand that element.
Yeah, and I agree with you. David probably wrote that, or one of our content writers, and it's just like writing it in language that normal people can understand. Finance is notoriously bad for using jargon to try and make it seem like it's more complicated than it is. And yeah, just something like a stock split, you hear that in the news, and even the newspapers don't do a great job of actually explaining what that is. And it's really not that complicated, is it? You just, again, you're fractionalizing it, the ownership, just in a smaller fraction. With fractional ownership at the product level, like free trade, though, it's kind of meaningless, right?
We've got to talk tech. Now, you had a blog, and I think you must be one of a handful of companies that's ever done this. You simply had a blog of this is all the technology that we use, why we use it, how we're finding it. And it was like we use Google Sheets for this, we use Slack. It was, again, very, very radically transparent. But I have a question. Would it have been possible, with what was available 15 or so years ago, would free trade have been possible 15 years ago?
Well, I mean, as built, of course not. The thing about that is, take away, mobile and, iPhones and all that kind of stuff. A digital stockbroker, obviously that was possible. That was revolutionary at the time when stockbrokers first went digital in like the late 90s. But building a new technology company from scratch the way that we have done, no, of course not. I think that's not dissimilar from most tech startups these days, because it's just so much cheaper to go and build new primary technology on top of all these other services that are available now. So we use so-called serverless technology. We let Google do the heavy lifting on a lot of our tech infrastructure, and that allows us to concentrate on the more specialized areas, I guess, that go into our stack. And that's hugely kind of almost revolutionary, because that means that we can build a new financial institution for a lot less money than it would have cost 15 years ago. So we have a significant engineering team, but it pales in comparison to what we would have had to have to build this thing a couple of decades ago. That's for sure. Well,
let's look to the future. What is the future of free trade? And with that in mind, what is it like looking at the future and then looking across the pond at, say, the Robin Hoods, who have just had whatever crazy fundraising round they've just had? What's it like looking at obviously your peers, and then also thinking of where you want to take the firm in the future?
Well, it is interesting to look over the States, because in a lot of areas of tech, a little bit more, maybe a couple of years ahead of Europe. Other areas, Europe's ahead. I think that what's interesting right now that's happening in our space is a bit of a renaissance in share ownership. And that used to be the case in the UK, that actually the retail investors held like a very significant portion of the shares on the London Stock Exchange. That's no longer the case. That's kind of been eroded over the last number of decades. And we're seeing a resurgence. We're seeing some interest back in the stock market, helped by maybe the COVID stuff. And we're part of that right now. And we've opened this up to a new generation that has never invested in the stock market before, just because we make it easy, we make it free, obviously. Just as a stat, we're now sending the second most number of trades every day to the London Stock Exchange for our customers, and that's come from nothing. And largely, our customer base are new investors or relatively new investors, so they have invested before, but not significantly for a significant amount of time. So that's great to see. How we treat those new customers and those new investors is really important, I think, because you're starting on an investing journey that is going to last the rest of your life, like it should. You're starting some investing habits that will serve you well for the rest of your life. Hopefully you have a better life because you have more resources that you've accumulated through investing. And how do we get that message out to these new investors and not turn it into some sort of casino game? And I think that is where the direction of travel for free trade and for our product. And we wanted to spread that message. First up is going to be the rest of Europe, the continent. So we're going to be going there to new markets and spreading free trade there. And then Beyond that is TBD, but we definitely have ambitions to make this a global thing.
Really excellent. The last question I've got to ask, I love this. So, will.i.am with Atom Bank. Klarna, face of has got Snoop Dogg as the face of Klarna. Which
Snoop Dogg's like the face of a lot of businesses. I think he's actually a venture capital investor. I don't know if you've seen some of his investments.
Robinhood, I know he's in it as well.
Yeah, he's got I think was it Casa Verde, a whole like kind of marijuana themed investment vehicle. But yeah, kind of an impressive investor himself.
Who's the pop culture icon that would best describe Freetrade? It doesn't have to be a real person, could be a fictional person, doesn't have to be living.
Yeah, the first thing that pops to mind is kind of like Snoop Dogg, someone that maybe throws off a bit of a funny persona publicly, but is actually got some business acumen, is obviously a sharp businessman himself. I was thinking like Ryan Reynolds, he just sold his aviation gin.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing actually to see a lot of these celebrities actually are creating businesses from scratch, just in that same space, right? George Clooney sold his tequila business for a ton.
$1 billion, I think.
Bought a new marijuana brand, house plant that he's got going that looks pretty good. So there's, I would think Ryan Reynolds for me, because he's Canadian, he's from Vancouver, so.
I was going to say, you got the Canadian link there. That's a great answer. Great answer. Ryan Reynolds, and obviously we know you're listening. Get in touch. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Again, I'm a big fan of Freetrade. But yeah, thank you for crowdfunding. Thank you for creating such an easy to use app. Thank you for making it so straightforward. Where's the best way to reach out to you? Social
at Freetrade on Twitter, on Instagram, and our community, freetrade.io/community. That's where the conversation's happening, and great to have you part of it, Ali. And thanks for having me on.